Hi there and welcome to another Q&A session. Now in this week we're going to talk about four main things, which are good equipment for an intermediate level archer, when to start using a clicker, how to balance your shooting and your gym training together, and then also how to increase your draw weight and work towards a higher draw weight. So we'll get started with the questions. So question number one was to do with the best equipment for an intermediate level archer. And they've actually provided a list of the current equipment they've got, which I'll just put up on the side here. And basically, the way I see this is there are three main items that really affect equipment performance. And the three main items here are the riser, the limbs, and the arrows. They're really the three main parts of the equipment that have a really large impact on your score, providing you don't have a wobbly sight, that is. But the sight here that the guy has is a decent sight and shouldn't move around too much. So providing you've got that, then the three main parts are the riser, the limbs, and the arrows. So when it comes to the limbs and the arrows, the difficulty here is, depending on how long you've been shooting and how far you want to go, you'll probably have to change your limbs and your arrows semi-frequently, because if you want to increase your draw length or your draw weight, or you want to get better, faster limbs, then you might need to change these. So the limbs and the arrows probably have the biggest impact, probably even bigger than the riser in terms of performance, but they're very costly and you can need to replace these quite often if you're increasing draw weight, and especially if you're a young archer that's still growing. So this is something to consider. So in this example, I would suggest a riser. If you were happy on your draw length and your draw weight currently, I would prioritize arrows, and then after that I would do the limbs. So in that order really is how I would consider things. So I hope that helps answer that question a little bit more. But it's just important to bear in mind that you'll probably need to change arrows and limbs. And even now, I've been shooting 15 years now, and I'll still get some arrows, and then something will change, and then maybe I need to change my draw weight slightly, and then I'll need a different set of arrows. So even when you've been shooting a long time, it happens, so you just have to kind of bear that in mind and accommodate that. So question number two was about balancing your gym sessions and your archery shooting training together in a weekly training plan, in effect, and how to best kind of optimize this training plan during the week so that you can do both the gym sessions and the archery training. So the first thing to remember here is that everyone starts at a different level, and you need to make sure that you are working to your level and not trying to instantly do too much. So it's really important to do what your body can handle and then slowly increase this, rather than shooting and doing loads of gym sessions that your body can't manage at the moment, and overloading yourself and maybe causing injury. So that's the first thing to remember here. The second thing I would suggest is, if in this scenario I'm going to assume you are probably shooting 150 to 200 hours a day, maybe 5 to 6 days a week. And then I'm going to assume you want to then add some gym work into that. So what I would do to start that is start with a fairly simple basic core session. There's actually one that I made on the Instagram page that we've got, which is just a basic core session, and I'll just pop a picture of it up there. And this is just something that you can start doing and start small, so that you can integrate this into your training and then gradually build up. So it's really important to, when you're doing gym work and adding stuff into your training, just to start small, because it allows you to see how your body copes with it, and then it also makes it more likely that you'll carry on doing this. So maybe start adding that core session in Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning, and then you can do your normal shooting, and maybe do that for a couple of weeks, and then you can maybe add in a bit more kind of effort in terms of, you can add a few more exercises into the core sessions, maybe start adding some light cardio and stuff like that into your sessions, and then add that in. Now, if we then move on to someone who's got core sessions, and then maybe they've got like a strength session that they want to kind of implement in their week, and they're not sure how to do this, then that's where we start looking at like the weekly kind of layout of how you're shooting. So for this, it's good to remember that your body can only do so much, and you need to recover from your archery shooting, and you also need to recover from your gym training, but they're slightly different loads on the body. So one example of a good way to structure this would be you could shoot on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday at a high level in terms of your intensity. So what I mean by this is you would possibly shoot more 70 meters, a higher number of arrows per end, so maybe 8 or 10 arrows per end, and maybe you would shoot 200 to 250 arrows, maybe, going from the example I had earlier where the average was 150 to 200. Now that means that Monday, Wednesday and Thursday are your like shooting focused days, so then that leaves Tuesday and Friday as more of a gym focused day. So then on Tuesday and Friday you can lower the intensity of your archery training, so maybe you shoot 150 arrows or 100 arrows and you just do these arrows at blank boss, which this makes the intensity a lot lower, so then this makes it allows your body to recover a bit more basically. So then on these days you can then have your focus on your gym sessions and do heavy gym sessions on the Tuesday and the Friday, and then the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday will allow your body to recover from the gym sessions whilst you still increase your archery training intensity. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of the structure there, and it's important, as I said before, to start things kind of slow and then gradually build up and see how you get along with that. But that's like a basic structure that I would kind of use to start, and then think about how you want to kind of load your body in that way. Once you've then possibly done that for a few weeks, then you could start looking at really increasing the intensity on those archery focused days by maybe adding in some bow training, kind of slowly implementing that, and then also adding in some specific high intensity archery drills, so maybe like a 90-second drill or some like drills in between your shooting and stuff like that to really challenge you. But that's something a little bit further down the line. So I hope that answers that question, and we'll move on to the next one. So question number 3 was about increasing draw weight, and I think it was about going from about 34 pounds to 38 or 38.5 pounds, and how the best way to do this would be. So there was a suggestion, as you saw below, there was a suggestion about alternating how much bow weight you shoot with, and then maybe doing a certain number of arrows with one bow weight and then dropping to a lower bow weight and stuff like this. So that is a really good way of increasing your strength in this area and just kind of testing your body, and this is a good way to help you adapt to that higher weight as well in your training. One thing I would consider though is the gap between 34 and 38 pounds. A 4 pound leap in poundage is really quite a lot. So normally I would only do maybe 2 to 3 pounds per year in terms of increasing draw weight as a maximum. So I try and be really conservative on how quickly you increase your draw weight, because there are all sorts of issues that can come with that. So I'd really be on top of making sure that you are doing your shoulder prehab stuff, that you've got good general strength and gym work, and then really kind of minimizing your poundage increase. If you really want to, and you have to increase by 4.5 pounds, then I would make sure that you do this week on week rather than just 4.5 pounds in one go. So maybe you could do half a pound per week for, I guess it would be 8 weeks or so. So maybe you could do that rather than just 4.5 pounds straight away, because that will have a big effect on your body. So with that being said, there are some good ways that you can adjust to this poundage and increase your strength in this regard. So one of them would be alternating the shooting, as you mentioned. Another one would be doing bow training for sure. So if you don't currently do bow training, I would definitely recommend this, providing that you're doing this bow training with good technique. And you could do this with both like a shot trainer on your elbow just to hold at full draw, and then also just holding with your fingers in terms of how you would normally shoot. So doing both of these types of bow training is really helpful, and it's a really good way to increase your strength and ability to shoot that higher poundage. Now, because of the higher poundage, it's likely that if you just shoot 70 meters, or if you just shoot target face, 18 meters or 30 meters, whatever it is, if you're just doing target face and scoring and that kind of thing, with the higher poundage, it's very likely that your form will break down and maybe revert to something that you were doing a year or maybe half a year ago that isn't so good. And this is quite a high kind of probability of this happening when you've got a big jump in draw weight. So to make sure that doesn't happen, I would definitely shoot more blank boss as you're increasing your draw weight. So this allows you to then really think about what you're doing and really feel what you're doing, and probably do a lot more closed eyes shooting at blank boss as well. So you can make sure as you increase that poundage that your form doesn't kind of go back to what it was doing before, and it doesn't revert back to something like not ideal basically. So it's really important to make sure you keep that technique and then have regular checkups in the week. So maybe this might be Monday, Wednesday, Friday as a blank boss day while you're increasing your poundage like that. And on these blank boss days you can really focus on the technique, and maybe you can do even a few more arrows. You can shoot a few more arrows because you're shooting blank boss, and just make sure that you've got the intensity there, and then have Tuesday and Thursday as a little bit lower days to give your time, give your body time to recover. If you put your poundage up and then increase your arrow count and shoot every day, that won't really work because your body won't have time to recover. So it's good to give yourself that time to recover, adapt, and then hopefully you'll get stronger and be able to shoot the higher poundage. So I hope that answers that question, and we'll go on to the next one. So question number 4 is all about when to start using a clicker and when the best time to start using a clicker is. Now this is a really great question because the clicker is a really important part of the whole shot process obviously, and there's some really important elements of the shot that you need to have before you fully start using a clicker properly. So essentially what you really need to make sure of is that before you start using a clicker, you have a shot process that you are confident with and that follows a good guideline, so that you have what we would call a proper shot process that follows certain steps. So the main steps here that you really need to be aware of and you need to understand and have in place are your anchor, your full draw position, being able to get to a real good full draw position with a good anchor point where you've got the correct hand position. Good alignment is key. So if you're way out of line, then it's probably not a good time to start using a clicker yet, because it will just keep you in that alignment, because if you were then to get good alignment, your draw length would massively change. So it's really important to get your alignment first, get a good anchor position, good full draw position, and understand how to expand through the shot in the same way each time, and then shoot and release. So then when you start using a clicker, you won't just release when the clicker goes off in kind of a random way. You'll still go through your step-by-step expansion and still shoot the same way. So this is really important. So I would basically work with a coach, or obviously you've done a beginner's course or something at a club, and then work with a coach to get this shot process, and you can also use the details on our website, but get this shot process and get a consistent anchor point, full draw position and alignment are really key areas. Then once you've got these areas, you can really work on getting a consistent expansion, and then once you've got this process in place and you've got these key elements, then you can think about starting to work with a clicker. But in this case, you want to make sure that your draw length is consistent to at least 1 centimetre as an absolute minimum. So what I mean by this is when you draw the arrow, you want the position the arrow is in when you get to your full draw position, you want that position to be within 1 centimetre each time. So then when you expand and shoot, you can then reasonably expect to get through the clicker with a bit of expansion. And as you get better and better, you'll work to get the clicker position to within 1 or 2 millimetres ideally. So as a minimum, your draw length needs to be consistent within 1 centimetre, and then you can work on improving this later. But that's a really great question, that one, so thanks for asking that, and I hope that gave a little bit more insight into that. Now, when it comes to actually putting the clicker on and then working with the clicker, I would definitely try doing this at close range first, and also doing this with your eyes closed, as long as it's close enough obviously that you'll still hit the target and it's not dangerous. But I'd definitely do this close range with your eyes closed and make sure that you're still following this shot process that you've made, and then work to draw through the clicker in the same way each time and then shoot. And this is really important because if you're just transitioning to using a clicker, chances are you haven't been shooting that long. So if you put the clicker in the wrong position, then it's very easy for it to kind of force you to do something wrong in your shot because you're not super ingrained in your shot process yet. So I would definitely spend time at close range doing this and making sure your shot process is good and you're still following this. And then I would alternate periods of shooting with the clicker and shooting without the clicker. And while you do this, you can check if your draw length is still the same or if you're kind of adjusting your draw length to your clicker. You can also check if your timing is the same and see whether you're taking longer or taking shorter under the clicker, which could indicate that the clicker position is wrong. So I would definitely make sure to do these things and make sure that you are still following your shot process rather than kind of changing your shot process just because you have a clicker on the bow now and it told you to shoot, so you've shot. So you have to make sure that you are in control of the clicker and the clicker is not in control of you. So I'm going to wrap the Q&A up there for this week. Thanks a lot for sending those questions in again, and next week I'll get through some of the other questions that you guys sent in. So keep on sending your questions in and I'll keep on answering them. I'll see you next week.